be able to fill the orders. See if that'll help a little. I'll move over. Okay, as we usually do, we do the pledge and then the prayer. So if everybody will please stand.
Be next to the camera guy.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, our rock and our salvation, we beg you to pour out your Holy Spirit upon our fractured nation. Heal the divisions that separate us and remove all obstacles to authentic unity. May you guide this great country of ours and lead our citizens to embrace one another as neighbors and fellow countrymen, created in your own image and likeness. Give us a fresh opportunity for renewal and true solidarity for the common good of our homeland. May we return to our true identity as a people of faith and charity. Help us to always remain one nation under you, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Amen. Okay, I know we have an awful lot of visitors here today, and for the first time I think we've got just about every Tea Party that is in the area, which is fantastic. We have Randy Pace here from the Knoxville Republican Party, wherever he is. Kevin Desmond is with the Tennessee Liberty Alliance. They're really an active group that keeps us well informed. We have Roane County Tea Party members here. 3 or 4 of you guys are here. Mary Cook is from the Blount County Tea Party. I think she's sitting right over there. Steve Osborne with the Sevier County Tea Party. And that's pretty good. I think this is the first time we've ever had all the relative tea parties in the area. So thank you very much for coming.
Knoxville.
Also, Knoxville Tea Party is here. Wow. So that's great. Super. And I didn't see any of the political leadership that is in our neighborhood. They're having a meeting tonight, so they said they may be coming over later. If I see them, I'll try and introduce them. We have a few announcements. I think you want to make one, and we got a couple others.
My name is Phil Rothrock, and I'm representing the Loudoun County Child Advocacy Center. Do any of you know what that is? No? I know. Does anybody know what it is? No. I'll tell them about it. What it is, it's a child's place that they can be safe with their family, mother and kids. They come from abusive relationships, and they
Is there any chance that we can turn the
house
on the
these
speaker
animals
and then turn the volume
to let them get back on their feet and hide them so that the father can't find them. And there is a soup and chili dinner and lunch at Christ Our Savior Lutheran Church in Loudon on Wade Road. That's on 72 and 444. It's a white church, and the tickets are $13, and it's next Thursday, and the trial is lunch from 11 to 2, and dinner from 4:30 to 7, and it's $13. And if you want, I'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you.
Okay, we had a couple others. Where's Susan?
Here.
Oh.
You're lucky tonight because I came to listen, not talk. But I just wanted to announce for those that haven't heard about it that I ended our Loudoun County Tellico Village Patriots Reborn group last week. I won't explain why. There's a handout at the table. That's the last message I sent to members. And also I do have copies here. But I did have some expenses over the years, and I'm trying to recoup some of them. And I have some wonderful items for purchase tonight. I have 6 Trump Keep America Great hats, $20 each. And I have a wonderful, beautiful pin that says I'm Christian and I carry. And I'm also asking $20 for that, for the pins. And I have about 7 of those. Thank you, Wayne.
Okay. Do we have any other announcements?
I want to thank everyone for allowing us to be here tonight. My name is Barbara Gilbert, and the t-shirt that many of you have purchased, and I thank you for that, because this is our debut. I made the first one on my kitchen table. So this is an exclusive shirt. And now that there's so many tea parties here from the different areas, you can go ahead and get my name and information from Wayne, and I will be happy to service your tea parties. And I know if you're wearing your shirt, someone's going to say, hey, I like that shirt, where did you get it? So I'm going to put the responsibility on Wayne to go ahead and get your information, and I will be happy to go ahead and order your shirt and have it delivered to you, plus 10% of our proceeds are coming back to your tea party as a thank you for your hospitality tonight. So thank you very much.
Okay, don't forget about, no problem. Don't forget about our website, CrossCountyPatriots.com. We post stuff on there. If you have stuff that you want to send to me, there's a way that you can go on the website and send us notes, and I can put it onto the website. Is everybody here back there? Okay. Katie's going to pass the basket now. I don't know where Katie is. That helps us to support our tea party, and also this is going to be for the Boys and Girls State for the American Legion. Each year we sponsor 2 people. Katie and I sponsor one, and the tea party sponsors the other one. And that is, they were supposed to be here tonight, and they called and said that something happened with so they were not going to be able to be here. We might try and get them to another tea party meeting. But we need to go ahead and set that up, because they need to know that we're going to have 2 from our tea party area for the Boys and Girls State. What that is when during their junior summer, or when they're going to become a senior, they go and they learn about government. They build a city, then they build a county, then they work through the state, and they run for elections. They have to do projects. They learn how to march. There's a whole bunch of things that they've never done before, and also the camaraderie between the different groups is just fantastic. I went to Louisiana Boys State 53 years ago, and I still remember that. So it really made an impression on me.
Just pass it all the way around.
What's that?
I want them to keep passing it all the way around.
Oh, okay. Pass the basket. That will help us out. It costs us $400 to sponsor one of the girls or the boy. So we will do it like we've done it every year. Any questions about that particular organization? It's fantastic. They'll have about 600 boys and girls that will go to this boys state and girls state. They'll spend a week and end up also spending a day in the legislature with the governor and legislature, whatever position they run for. So it's pretty neat. Okay, we want to give Senator candidate Manny Sethi as much time as he can so he can answer questions. So he has really been, Katie and I and several of the Tea Party members went to a meeting here in Knoxville about, I guess 6 weeks or so ago, maybe even 2 months ago, and he came and talked to some of the leadership groups in the different areas. And what we heard was somebody that's very, very conservative, that was very good in articulating his position. He has some good, really good ideas that I think he will be sharing with you. And I think the candidate that Alexander and our previous governor have sponsored is going to be another Alexander Light. And so we'd really like to make sure that everybody understands what Dr. Manny Sethi's position is. And so I'd like to introduce Dr. Manny Sethi now, and I'll turn the microphone over to him. When we start the questions, I will run around with the microphone. I'd like for you to wait until I come to you and give you the microphone so that we're not talking over one another.
All right, thanks, brother. Thanks, Wayne. I appreciate you. Man, I've been excited for this. I've been waiting for this. I'm going to put this aside. I'm not much for podiums. Anyways, how y'all doing? Y'all doing all right? Yeah? All right, well, I am Dr. Manny, and I'm an orthopedic trauma surgeon down the road at Vanderbilt. So I say this everywhere I go. If anybody's got any hip or shoulder or knee pain, you see me over there in the corner. Any other medical problems? But I'm telling you, as you get to know me, you will learn about me. As my wife says this about me, the best thing and the worst thing about me is I try to be everybody's doctor. So if I can help you, you let me know. But I'm really, truly honored to be here tonight. This turnout is just is incredible. And you know, I deeply love America, and I deeply love Tennessee, and I just want to share with y'all for a little bit why I want to do this, why I want to run for the U.S. Senate. And that all starts with my mom and dad. So they grew up in India in the 1940s. Now, have any of y'all seen that movie Slumdog Millionaire before? Yeah. Yeah? You saw the poverty in that, you know, and that's how they grew up. When they were children, if you can believe this, their homes were burned to the ground by Muslim radicals. They lived in North India in these refugee camps, had nothing. Both pulled themselves up by their bootstraps to become doctors. Now my mama, she'd tell me this story about how she'd go to these villages in India without electricity, without running water, to see patients. And my dad, well, he would work all these odd jobs and sleep in the back of his car and see patients during the day. But you know, so they both became doctors, but they started looking at their brothers and sisters, and their nephews and their nieces. They realized that India was not going to be the place for their unborn kids. Just wasn't much of a future there. So they went to the U.S. Embassy in India, New Delhi. They stood in line and waited their turn. And in the 1970s, they came to this country legally, with an L. I was at this place, you know, look, I've never done this. I've never run for anything. And I just said, yeah, they came to this country. This guy comes up and he goes, they come here legally? So yes, they came here legally. I mean, it's a fair question. So they came here to Cleveland, Ohio. And that's where I was born. And are you from Cleveland? All right, all right. And when I was 4 years old, we got on this semi-truck. I remember it, I so vividly remember it. And we rolled on down to Coffee County, Tennessee. Now, do y'all know Coffee County? Yeah. So that's where I'm from. So we landed in Hillsborough, Tennessee. Now, do y'all know Hillsborough? Small town? Yeah. Hillsborough was a farming town. And people didn't have a lot. Had each other. It was a farming town. And they invested in me and my brother. I used to go to school with kids who could not even afford a 15-cent milk carton, but they never made you feel it. You never knew it. And my parents, you know, they were the only doctors in this town in the beginning. So my dad was a primary care doctor. All right, so he was like the stomach doctor, the heart doctor, psychiatrist, occasionally the marriage counselor. And my mom, well, she was an OBGYN and delivered babies and babies of the babies. Now, if anybody wants to do any Oppo research on this, you can go to the Walmart in Manchester, Tennessee, and one of the greeters is named after my mama. So, there you have it. True story. So in our town, we only had an ambulance or two. And so my dad would frequently go pick up patients. Do y'all remember that big old blue Oldsmobile 98? Yeah. So that was my dad's car. So we used to go pick up patients. And I remember this one night. We went to Grundy County, to Altamont. You all know Altamont, Grundy County? And we picked up this patient who was in really bad heart failure. So when you're in bad heart failure, you have trouble breathing, you have chest pain. And we're rushing this guy to the hospital, the county hospital my dad helped to develop. It's not closed. And he runs this patient into the hospital, and then he comes out. Now I'm 10 years old, and I'm sitting in the backseat of this car. And I'm watching as my dad walks out of the hospital, and he starts to comfort this family. Now that's something I've gotten to know a little bit about because of what I do. But I remember they reached in their pocket and they tried to offer him some money, but he wouldn't take it. So he gets in the car, and I climb up in the front seat, and we're driving home. I said to him, well, Dad, why didn't you take that family's money when they were giving it to you? He looks at me, and this is important because this is who I am as a person. And he says, you know, son, it does not matter what is in your bank account. But what truly matters is the difference that you make. And I'll say that again. It doesn't matter what's in your bank account, but what matters is the difference that you make. That's how I was raised. In a small rural town, my parents were doctors and farmers, and then boom, when I was 22, out of nowhere, I lose my dad. Liver cancer. Any of y'all have families? Have you lost parents when you were young? Yeah, so you know it's really hard. Hardest thing I've ever gone through. Just felt like I was in quicksand. Nothing I did was right. Just could not find my way out. But that's when I found Christ. That's when I came to the Lord. And that's when I realized that like generations of my family, that I was going to become a doctor too, to help people. So the adventure continued. I went off to medical school and decided to become a trauma surgeon. And I've been back at Vanderbilt now for about 10 years. Practicing trauma. I've operated on a lot of people from Loudon, so. and you know, we at Vandy are the 3rd busiest level 1 center in the country. I mean, it's crazy some of the stuff you see. And you realize the line between life and death is just razor thin. You just don't know what the Lord's got planned for you. So in the time that you got on this earth, make the biggest difference that you can make. Help as many people as you can. And your loved ones, when you go home tonight, tell them how much you love them. Because you just don't know. And life is like a candle, and it can be gone. So, been seeing patients, been feeling like I'm making a difference. About 9 years ago, my wife Maya and I, my wife is, we met when we were 16, my first and only girlfriend. Then I tricked her into becoming my wife. We got 2 children. We got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 6-year-old's finally started riding his bike on Sunday without training wheels. Very proud. And we started going across the state seeing patients, giving them free care, all across the state, mostly in rural places. We've been here in Loudon, and we're going to be back here soon, actually, too. And I felt like I was making a difference doing that. Now, the president heard about this, President Trump, and he called us up and invited us to the White House, and so I spent some time with him. And he couldn't remember Manny, so he nicknamed me Tennessee. He kept calling me Tennessee. Spoke at one of his rallies. Man, I love that guy. I wish he'd endorsed me. So, felt like I was making a difference seeing patients across the state. And then one day I had been on call for like 3 days. I'm driving my Dodge Durango, and I'm listening to the radio, and boom, they say, Lamar Alexander is retired. And in that moment, The Lord put my heart. Amen. That I was going to run for the U.S. Senate to make a different kind of difference. You know, folks, we have a generational opportunity for change. And I just want to talk to you about some of these problems that we face. So look, we're doing a lot that's going well in Tennessee and in America, but we face some challenges. And the Washington establishment, with them, it's never going to change. We got to change it. Obamacare. Is there anybody in this room that likes Obamacare? No. So I think, personally, what Obamacare shows you over 10 years is what happens when the federal government gets between a patient and their doctor. Or when the federal government gets into the insurance market. Premiums have risen, deductibles have risen. In Sevier County, I met a guy who was telling me he pays $20,000 for a family of 3 with a deductible of about 10 grand. Is that health insurance? I don't think so. Highway robbery. And what we have to do is we need a new system. And let me just briefly tell you about what I believe that will be. And it has to involve 3 things. 3 things can change healthcare in this country. I wake up thinking about this, I go to bed thinking about this. Pricing transparency. In our country, nobody knows what we're paying for in healthcare. I'm the doctor. I don't know. The patient doesn't know. The insurance company doesn't know. Nobody knows. So we have to have a fixed cost. Like if you break your hip and I fix it, there should be a fixed cost. And there is. We can't do anything until we have pricing transparency. And the president is trying to do this. He enacted some really amazing legislation through the HHS a few weeks ago that, you know, surprise, surprise, the media didn't cover. So, transparency. Individual insurance market. Right now in our country, we are so tied to employer-based health care that we empower these 10 insurance companies like United, Humana, Blue Cross, Aetna. The problem with that is they develop this sort of like death grip on the market. What we need to do is to encourage large employers to give the money back to their employees, let them go to an individual insurance market where you can compete across state lines. You can buy your own insurance. We get rid of these 10 essential health benefits in Obamacare, and I'm telling you, overnight the market will be flooded with different companies that want to come in. Premiums will go down, deductibles will go down. Things will get better. But here's the next part. And the career politicians, they're not going to tell you this. All these Washington insiders, they're not going to share this. If we don't start talking about prevention, nothing will change. So what do I mean by that? In our country right now, we pay doctors to treat disease. So if you have diabetes, you're in the hospital, who makes money? This guy. If you are not in the hospital, you're doing fine, it's not my problem. I'm not incentivized. So we in this country pay to treat disease but not promote wellness. We have to change that dramatically. We have to start paying for prevention. And if we do that, things will get better. But without prevention, nothing will change. So that's the first thing, is health care. The second thing I want to talk to you all about is this opioid crisis. Any of you all have family members or friends who struggle with this? Yeah, it's a problem. You know, Thanksgiving Day I was on call. I haven't been taking too much call at Vanderbilt recently, so I've been trying to make up to my partner, so I took call on Thanksgiving Day. In comes a young lady who was 30 weeks pregnant. She had been addicted to oxycodone, and then she couldn't get it, so she started shooting heroin and developed a flesh-eating bacteria in her leg. So we saved her life, we saved a baby's life. But I want you to think about this for a minute. This is happening in communities across Tennessee every single day. I had another guy, weeks before he was found down, he had OD'd on OxyContin, and these fleas had bitten him to death. And he had developed just a horrible infection. This is happening every day. Here's the problem. The federal government, with their I think I know it all attitude, is trying to create a one-size-fits-all solution to this problem. Now, for the last year and a half, 2 years, I have traveled the state talking about this issue with local mayors, with sheriffs, with recovering addicts, with faith-based recovery folks, with drug court judges. And I'll tell you this, the problem here in Loudoun is different than the problem in Coffee County where I grew up. It's different in Sullivan County. We need to empower our local communities, our local mayors, our local sheriffs. This is a problem that needs to be solved at the level of the local community. But I'll tell you this, in the last 6 to 8 months as I've traveled, faith-based recovery is very powerful. And the federal government doesn't even fund that, doesn't even believe in it. And that's just wrong. So this opioid crisis, we got to start talking about it. And the third thing I've been talking a lot about as we've been traveling and hearing a lot about is immigration. So look, this is obviously something that's personal to me. My parents were immigrants. They came here legally. I lost my dad, as you know. But started talking to my mom about this. So my mama, she watches Fox News. She loves Fox News. All right? So people will start talking about immigration on the TV, on the debates, and she gets so fired up. And she's got this thick Indian accent, so it's, when she gets a little upset, it's a little hard to follow her. All right? And she'll start saying, I stood in line. I waited my turn. So did your father. That is the American way. It is not racist to talk about illegal immigration. We got to have that conversation. Right now, we're so tied to this chain-based migration system in our country, where we bring low-skilled immigrants over who aren't going to thrive here. And then they bring other low-skilled immigrants that aren't going to thrive. And then they all end up on welfare. Right? It's not right. We need to move to a merit-based system, a system that brings in people who will add benefit to American society and life, but they will also be able to thrive and therefore live the American dream. We need a border wall. We need a border wall. It's got to happen for illegal immigration, but also for all this meth, heroin, this fentanyl that's coming over here. We got to do something. But you know, I love the Gospel of Matthew. Love the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew 9 teaches us the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. Harvest is plenty, workers are few. And you know, I think about my dad a lot. I really do. I wish y'all could have met him. And I really think that night in that car, somehow he just knew he wasn't going to be here. He was trying to teach me. Doesn't matter what's in your bank account. What matters is the difference that you make. Now, folks, we're faced with a real choice here coming up. And I just don't think we need to be sending up a Washington insider backed by the establishment. I think it's time for somebody to come from outside of government. 40 years ago, room just like this, folks just like you guys, Coffee County's down the road, you opened your door to these two immigrants. You didn't know who they were, but you did. And look what came next. I became a doctor. My brother became a doctor. I'm running for the U.S. Senate. That is the American story. That is the American story. 40 years later, the child of those two immigrants, this kid from Coffee County, never run for anything. I'm here tonight. I'm asking you, I'm asking each of you to be with me on this journey. Send me to Washington. Let's fight together. Together we can change healthcare. We can fix this opioid crisis. We can solve this immigration crisis. But I need each and every one of you tonight to be with me, to stand with me, to help me. We can do this, but we can do it together. Thank you so much. You guys are going to give me a big hand. Do we have time for questions?
Yes, we do.
All right.
Yeah.
I think Mike's got the. Yeah, go ahead.
I got the mic. When it goes to you, raise your hand up. I'll bring it over.
Can Mike ask the first question? He's up here. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike. What's your question?
Okay. Granted, what you said your father told you, what's in the bank does matter.
Yeah.
We are now $23 trillion in debt and growing more in debt by about $1 billion now. What can we do about that?
You're totally right. This is an issue that has come up a lot. And how can we be conservative if we keep raising our debt ceiling, year after year after year? So let me give you a little plan about what I would do. So, with discretionary spending, let's talk about the Department of Education for a minute. So do you know that they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on programs like a cultural competency education program? They're like, oh man, Manny, he looks a little different. He's Indian. We need to talk to him in a special way. I mean, this is what they're doing. And I mean, these programs are a waste. And then what we're trying to do is, in the Senate, they're trying to pass these omnibus spending bills, right? So instead of breaking it up into 14 separate bills, they're piling it all together so you don't know what's going on. So we really, really have to start thinking about this. But then I will come back to this, brother. It is healthcare. Healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. We are spending way too much on healthcare. There is so much waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, Medicaid. I cannot even, it's amazing. I mean, people have made millions off of this, and it's wrong. So I believe if we start focusing on the administration of some of those programs, we change and we focus on prevention, I believe through discretionary spending, through fixing healthcare, we can solve some of these budget crises, but we just can't spend our way out of this, and we got to do something. So I'm with you.
Someone back here? Dr. Manny, I'm glad you're on top of healthcare. We need all the help up there we can get, obviously. More current events. Yesterday in Richmond, we all are aware of what happened. If you were in the Senate representing Tennessee and Knoxville was turned into a Richmond, what would you as a senator do?
So are you specifically the Second Amendment? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Look, so I think it's really important. I want y'all to know kind of where I come from with some of these issues. So about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I got a death threat. Now, have any of you all gotten a death threat before? Really? That's a lot of people, man. Wow. Well, I got this letter, and I was like, okay, this is not good. So I called the cops, and they're like, well, we'll drive by your house like once a week. All right, that's great. That's helpful. I called my hospital folks. I was like, yeah, I got this. They're like, why don't you change the way you walk to work from your car? I'm like, okay, there's like really only one way I can walk to work from my car. So then I went and got my carry permit and I got a Glock. And like that's the Second Amendment. It's to protect myself and protect my family. And look, I get that it's uncomfortable for some, but it's in the Constitution and it says what it says. I'm against red flag laws. There will be no one who's more of a staunch defender of your Second Amendment rights than I will be. Because the federal government starts coming after that, God knows what they're going to come after next. And you have my word. I will always stand with you.
I don't want to be naive. The Trump tax cut is permanent for business, but it's not permanent for individuals. Is that right, or is that not right?
I would have to get back. I believe that's right, and I believe that they're going to try to do that in the next year or two. That they're going to try to formalize and make it permanent, but it's not. I think you're right, but it should be.
Yeah, one over here.
No, I don't have a question, but I do have a statement. When you go campaigning, bring your mother with you.
Yeah. she comes with me sometimes.
Yeah, she'll get you out of vote.
Yeah.
Mothers
Hey,
can do that.
Can I tell you something wild though? So we were in Coffee County, where I was raised, and there was a GOP event, and she came with me, and she ran into like 2 people she had delivered.
Oh.
Great. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for coming. And I wondered if you had thought about the government meddling in healthcare as how we got to this point in the beginning when Roosevelt attached wages. He fixed the wages, but then they put the health insurance coverage in for a benefit. So that was the first meddling. And then Nixon in the 70s decided the HMO would be the way to go to control. There's been tons and tons and tons of meddling from up there. Would it be not wise just to get the heck out, totally without more meddling, because people can come up and tweak any legislation afterwards, after normal-minded people are gone.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I was going to say one more thing about the opioid.
I love your glasses, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Weren't that expensive? Thank you. About the opioid thing, I know that a lot of money comes out of our pockets, those who earn it, to give to these programs to take care of the opioid people. Now, if the money's coming out of the pocket, can we not have a say in their behavior?
Yeah.
A little bit?
So can I answer the second question first? You know who needs to be paying for this is the drug companies who made all this crap and got generational market addicted. That's who. And so you're totally, I think the problem is, so I have had these surreal experiences while trying to talk to people in Washington about healthcare. Typically it'll be, I'm serious, it'll be like some 22-year-old kid talking to me about like their expertise in healthcare. And these are the people, I'm serious, these are the people that are making the decisions that affect millions of lives. And I think that's crazy. I think what we need is a free market-based health climate, and I believe free market is the answer here. And I think, the climate of transparency, of an individual insurance market, of changing how we pay and prevention will be the climate in which we can really create a healthcare system that thrives. But HMOs, the PPOs, now the ACOs, yeah, all of this stuff is a, we really need to open healthcare to the free market, and I believe that it can survive and thrive. So one thing to tell you, and I don't know if, you ever watch like Bernie Sanders and Pocahontas, and they're always talking about socialized medicine in Norway? Do you guys realize that Norway is going broke because of their healthcare system?
And they have closed borders.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I got something going for them. All right.
Dr. Manny, on healthcare, I couldn't agree with you more. I know I went through that rough stage where I was too young for Medicare and too old for women to care. But anyway, your message is
what age is that exactly?
Your message is so powerful. One of the questions I was going to ask you is how do you feel about term limits? But you almost changed my mind.
Yeah.
How do you feel about term limits?
No, we need term limits, and I would be term limited. I don't know, 2 terms, 3 terms, something like that. But I don't think you should stay up there too long, because here's the. Let me just also explain to you my thinking there. So frequently, in my line of work, you're woken up and you get a call from a resident. Hey, this is going on. This guy's in the ER. He's bleeding really badly. They can't control it. He's got a bad pelvic fracture. He's too sick to go to interventional radiology. We have to go to the OR. So you go to the OR, and you're just like woken up, and you're there, and you're doing your thing. And when you do it so many times, right, you're able to just really focus in on what's going on. You've got like 6 people watching you. You got the guy handing you the instruments, and the guy with the X-ray, and the 2 anesthesiologists, and everybody's like holding blood to make it go faster, and so there's all this chaos, right? But you're able to kind of focus in and zoom in on the problem because you've been doing this for so long. You're able to. And I think in medicine that's a good thing. As a surgeon, you want that. But in politics, I think you should wake up every day feeling the pain of your constituents or what they're going through. And the day that you don't wake up thinking about how can I help someone, how can I make a difference in the world, is the day you need to go home. And that's why I think term limits are very powerful. And I'll just say this, look, I told you I met my wife when I was 16. I love her so much. And I got these two little kiddos that I love so much. I can't explain to y'all. The Lord has just put this in my heart that I want to do this. That I want to make a difference. And if I go up there and I sell out to this swamp, then I'm not doing it. And so that's why I think term limits are good, and that's why I think you got to care.
You had mentioned about free market with medical, but maybe I misunderstood something you said, because I also thought I heard you talking about fixed rates. Now, as far as knowing that if you get a broken leg, what it's going to cost you that. Now,
free market.
Okay, but if it's a fixed rate, who's fixing that rate?
Oh, what I'm saying is, okay, let's say that tend to, so I believe that you will develop a rate by the free market. Okay?
Okay.
So think about this. Let's think about LASIK. Okay? Any of you all had LASIK surgery, right? Yeah. So LASIK, okay, if you looked at it 10 years ago when the insurance companies were paying for it, right? It was so expensive. But then the insurance companies backed off, right? They're like, we're not paying for this. And what happened? It got cheaper, it got better. And there were multiple different, fluctuating rates, but the free market got them all down to like about very competitive. That's what I mean. Yeah, I get your point. I get your point. No. I think the government needs to be out of this. They do not need to be involved whatsoever because, again, it's going to be some 22-year-old kid, telling you, what is and what's not. And so.
Dr. Manny,
Yeah.
if you are successful and become our next senator, by God's grace, President Trump will get another 4 years.
He better.
How do you feel that you will be able to work with President Trump, and will President Trump be able to work with you?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, I'm really supportive of the president. I've spent time with him. I met him. He endorsed my opponent, which I get it. That's the way this politics works, and things have happened up there. That's okay. But look, he's a conservative outsider. I'm a conservative outsider. He's a disruptor, and I really appreciate that. And he's a business guy. And if I go up there, I'm sort of like him in a way of I just want to get things done. I really want to make a difference. And so I will work hard to make sure that the agenda gets passed. I love the way he just, laser focuses on what the American people really need, and to try to like rid out the politics and culture of the swamp. And I'll do the same. Is that enough?
Dr. Manny,
You just gotta come look. I was like,
this is not meant to be a gotcha question. When I came down here from Illinois, just for the car insurance, State Farm to State Farm, it was all different. In my understanding, each state has its own insurance agency, whatever.
You're right.
Now for 10 years, you're not the only one who's been hearing this for 10 years. Or we can buy across state lines. How?
So here's the problem. Every state has that's a great question. So every state has a state health insurance commissioner, or well, in Tennessee it's a state insurance commissioner. They're called different things in different places, different states. But they have their own standards, right? So California's got their own standards for health insurance. Here's this product. By California state law, you got to have these things. So what happens when we can compete across state lines is that the California people are like, oh, well, I don't really want you to be buying this Tennessee product because it doesn't really fit our guidelines. And so we have to move beyond that. We have to get our state insurance commissioners together, and we just have to break that down. So
how do you break that?
You got to get everybody in a room, and you got to agree on a standard of 50. Can 50 states agree to some very vast, loose guideline? And I think people will. But what we can't do is what we're doing right now. We just can't, and because it's not working. But you're right. You're totally right.
Got one over here.
Dr. Manny, how you doing?
Good, brother.
So, not so much a question as a statement or a comment. You say you're in favor of term limits. So you're going to go to Washington. Quite frankly, I think the federal government's broke enough. You could do 30 terms and not fix it all. But I personally am not in favor of term limits. But I want to say this, and it's more directed to everybody. That wouldn't be a determining factor in me deciding to vote for or not vote for you for U.S. Senator. I appreciate you having the courage of your conviction to be able to stand up here and say, hey, I'm in favor of term limits, that's who I am. Don't be a single issue voter. I appreciate you sticking your neck out, running for U.S. Senate. God bless you, and the best of luck.
Thanks. Thank you.
You got one back here. We term limit our president.
Sir, first of all, I want to thank you for coming down here tonight. And actually, I'm asking this for somebody else. but, and it's no offense to you, but several months ago, there was another person here running for governor who talked very much like you. He was very conservative, he was empowered by God.
Oh.
And now he is
I know where
forcing,
this is going.
non-supported immigrants, on people that don't want it, and among other things. My question to you is, besides buying your Glock, which I'm glad you did, how can you prove that you are a conservative to us?
Got it. That's a fair question. Well, here's the thing. So I want to address this refugee issue for a second. I think so. First of all, I'm against it. I said that in some interview. I think it was in the Tennessee Star. But beyond that, I think no matter what your personal beliefs are, for me, if I'm a senator and this issue comes up, it's almost like being a doctor. And let's say, I tell you, look, there are these 3 treatment options, and I feel very strongly about treatment option number 1. And you're saying, no, I want this other option. Well, as a doctor, as a surgeon, I feel like I have to really respect your wishes. I'm trying to help you, right? And similarly, as a senator, I have to vote the mind and the conscience of my constituents. So I think in Tennessee, the overwhelming feeling about this issue is that we don't support this. And so that's how I would vote. Now, am I a conservative? If you look at the candidates I've supported, if you look at the foundation I created, which all is based on empowering local communities, and that's a pretty conservative way of thinking right there. But when it comes down to it, here's the thing. In my life, with what I do in my day job, sometimes I meet someone and I've got about 30 seconds to talk to them. And all you know about me is that white coat I'm wearing and that ID around my neck. And in this case, part of it is just, you got to trust me. You got to look at me and say, is this a guy I can trust? And if I am, then I'm your guy. And it comes down to that. But, my parents were immigrants. They came to this country. I've lived the American dream. Nobody gave us a handout. I grew up in a town with farmers who pulled themselves up by their own 2 hands. And I believe in the conservative cause and the conservative movement. I have my whole life. And that's all I can tell you.
Show one over here.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Manny. I just really appreciate everything you've said tonight, and I'm not exactly sure what all I want to ask, but I do want to say I'm a chiropractor, and you're an orthopedic surgeon, and so we've been at odds, through the years, but the one thing that has brought us together is Obamacare. Yeah. And I've never gotten along with medical doctors so well in all my life, and when Obama passed this, and so, the last 2 years have been such a struggle for me. I closed my clinic. I just sold it and went to a little practice, and I do cash, and I feel like I practice in heaven now. I could really be a doctor. I love the simplicity of it, and so I'm really glad that you are running and that you know firsthand all the problems with the healthcare system, and so you've won me over tonight. The second thing is I'm a homeschooler. I have one son, and I homeschooled him all through kindergarten through 12th grade. He went to college. He got a master's degree. He had a 3.9 average, when he graduated. He's very successful, and he's social. He gets along with everyone from, babies to people 100 years old, because he's, I can't say enough about homeschooling, and I really just want to make this statement that I hope you understand how important it is that we have the right to homeschool. People can complain about it all the time that, for whatever reason, that the kids aren't really getting educated. But it's so organized in East Tennessee. And these kids, we've taken homeschoolers over to Israel, we've taken them over to Poland, to Auschwitz, they get such a broad education. It's really an incredible thing to be a part of, to be privileged, honored, to have the freedom in this country to homeschool. So if ever you are faced with any issues on homeschooling, I hope you will remember there's people out here that really can give you a lot of experience, you know, and
Well, some of my closest friends were homeschooled, so I really.
Oh, yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, I will turn that over. I think I have a question. Well, I'm going to add to Dr. Ann's thing. I am so glad about what you're saying about localizing with the healthcare, but I also feel like it should be with education. I know in East Tennessee, you say some of those wasted programs out there. There's some in East Tennessee that you guys would be appalled at that are being taught in first graders.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. But my question to you is, I've had the opportunity to hear you talk before, and you have just moved me so. One issue you did not talk about was abortion.
Yeah.
And that's
Sure.
pretty prevalent around here. Can you share your thoughts? I know you had one story when you were in Sevierville that was just touching, but what are your stands on abortion?
Well, first of all, thank you. You know, my mom, as I told you, is an OBGYN, and never did abortions. As a medical student, I never watched them or was a part of them. I just refused. Recently, I was asked this question. I was driving down the road somewhere, and my phone rang, you know, and I didn't really look at the ID. I just answered. I'm like, hey, it's Manny. And this guy's like, well, I'm calling. I'm a reporter, and I wanted to know your stance on abortion. It's really important. And I said, well, I'm very pro-life. In fact, I said I'm pro-life, period. And he said, well, what about in cases of the well-being of the mother? And I said, well, my mom was an OBGYN for 30 years, and she tells me not once was she faced with that problem. So I think this is a media kind of driven issue. Then this is where I got mad. And I don't get mad often. I'm very easygoing. And he said, well, what about in the cases of rape and incest? And I said, you know what, man? Here's the thing. You just say stuff like this because you just have no heart. Like, have you ever met someone who came from rape or incest? Because guess what? I have. And there was a patient of mine, I can't tell you her name. We did 18 surgeries to save this lady's life. 18 surgeries to save her life. And in the process, I got to know her, and she shared this with me about what had happened to her. And in that moment, and then she ultimately passed away down the road. And she made my children it's this show, I can't remember, but she made them these two characters, and my daughter holds this stuffed animal that she made like all the time, and I think about it. And I was like, you know what, you're asking me this question right now, and number one, it makes me really angry, but number two, you expect me to end the life of a woman like that? So I am pro-life, period. And it's just ridiculous. And so it's just, you know, that's my role as a clinician, and that's my feeling as a doctor. So I felt bad that I got mad.
Dr. Manny, I'm sure you'll have a willing partner on this. You may not have thought about it. Marsha Blackburn, along with some other senator, I think he's from Missouri, they're talking about moving the agencies back into the country. Would you be
Sure.
Does that sound like a good idea to you? And I'm sure you can work with her. I mean, you're two Tennessee senators.
Yeah, I've known her a long time. She's great. And it's in terms of, you know, these federal bureaucracies, these departments, I just think where you can, you need to give power back to local communities. Because I think the local communities, whether that's education, whether that's healthcare, I just feel like any time you have someone thousands of miles away making decisions for you, it's just not going to work. And so and the other thing to just say, as I think about problems, if I'm your senator and there's something going on, I don't call the CEO of Boeing and the Amazon guy. I believe that the best people who know what's going on are the people on the ground, are the people who have small businesses, the people who are trying to make payroll. Look, with this opioid crisis, when we were doing this, I got 300 people in a room together to talk about this in Nashville. I didn't get like the vice presidents, and you know who I got? I got the people who were doing the faith-based work on the ground. I got the folks who are in the throes of this thing, because that's how I think. And so, yeah, I think we should totally do what we can to decentralize. I'd be a major fan of that.
Get them away from the lobbyists.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, all right. Last question?
I like a lot of what I'm hearing. You remind me a lot of Ted Cruz when he ran. I worked with his campaigns.
Oh yeah, well.
When he ran, the first thing that he did was self-limited. He term limited himself to 2 terms. He also opted out of the alternate health care that all of the senators and stuff get that's not Obamacare. He opted out of that.
I can promise you I'll opt out of that. Don't you worry.
Also, we'd like to get some contact info. A lot of us have a lot of background in several different areas. My specialty has to do with the immigration, the refugee resettlement program, illegal immigration coming from Texas. I've experienced a lot of things that are just now coming to this area, and I would like to transfer that information to you. I've just written a very detailed letter that I've sent to all of my commissioners, to my state rep, my senator, and received a call already today within an hour and a half after I sent the letter.
That's good response time.
Yes, I was shocked, but I would like to get some contact, and I'm sure everybody else would.
Austin will get it,
And I'm going to look into you a little more, but I may be interested in working with you on your campaign.
Thank you.
And I'm just thrilled that we've got somebody that's got some common sense solutions.
Well, I'll tell you this tonight with me. For better or for worse, what you see is what you get. It's that simple. And like Ted Cruz, I got Mitch McConnell like trying to battle and make sure I don't get there. But we got something in common.
Any other questions?
All right, y'all.
I got one more question back here.
One more, yeah. And then I'll hang out. So, hey.
Today in the Senate started one of the most worthless events that I've ever seen in my limited number of years. What's your position on this impeachment crap?
And what Senator Alexander is doing.
Well, you know, first of all, I got to be honest. I told my wife, I was like, I don't think this thing will even get out of the House. I really think that people are going to not, I mean, how could you vote for this? This is insane. But I think the Senate should have dismissed it.
Yes.
It's just a waste. I mean, just think about this for a minute. Look at all the problems we face as a country. And these people are out there just wasting your dollar, your dime, our dollar. And we need to talk about the issues of that matter to this country. The issues that I hear every day when I've been traveling. I've been on the road for what, really a year, honestly, but 6 months. I've been 7 months now. I've been traveling, and so many people are just struggling. And I mean, yeah. So I think this thing should have been dismissed out of hand, outright. Now, your question about Senator Alexander, I disagree with him. I think it should have been dismissed. I don't know what bringing a bunch of people in on primetime television to do their little act or whatever they're going to do is going to. We know. I mean, this is not going to pass. He won't. So we just need to move along here. You know, it's a kangaroo court. It's that simple. So, all right, y'all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be here a little bit. I got a couple more things I want to bring up before everybody runs off. The Act for America meeting will be this Thursday, and Kathleen Marquette is going to be speaking on that. Our next meeting will be February the 18th, and we have Pandora Breland is bringing an expert in on the silver carp. If you don't know what that is, it has to do with the fish that jump in your boat and knock you out, and break arms and legs and the jaws. And they did go to our Nashville and make a presentation. So they're looking for help anywhere they can get it to see if we can stop that fish from getting into Watts Bar and into Fort Lauderdale. And I want to thank you very much for coming. It was a great meeting, and especially all of our scores from other tea parties. That's fantastic. Come back. Oh,